Am I recording? Yeah. Okay, so to get back up to speed, what we did was we created a find browse form. Find browse form has two tables in its business view that we're using, and we created a fix inspect. Fix inspect has one table in its view, and we created a form interconnect between the find browse and the fix inspect. And the thing that we did to make it more user friendly is that instead the key in both in the F55 41002 is it includes the short item number, which is not a user friendly number to users, but that's the key that we're using to do our joins with other tables. So um, to make it more user friendly in the find browse, because we're joining the F4101, which is the item master, we're able to grab the second item number straight from that table. In this table, in the fix inspect, because we don't have a join, we have to go and grab the second item number. And we're doing that on the post dialog is initialized. And we're taking the data that gets passed to us from the for interconnect, building their where clause, because it's that's the key. Fish single, you're using the anything that's starred is going to be equals. And we're going to grab the second item number, which is our user-friendly item number at SF Marketing. And we're taking that value and we're placing it in the form control, which is here. And to make it so that the user knows that it's not something that they update, we make it read-only. Because this is part of the key, automatically it's read-only. I don't have to make it read-only. JDE knows that already. So when you go from here to here in a select, you're going to pass the data from the grid control. So from the currently selected record, JDE will automatically copy the data of the record you select to the variable so that you're able to pass the currently selected or currently working with row to the new form. So when I run that, if I select this line and I click select, that value is gonna get copied to the variable of the short item number, and that value will be copied to the variable of the unit of measure. If I select this record and click select, well, JDE is gonna automatically copy this value to the variable and this value to the variable. So it allows me to work with records. So that's when I do select, and it populates my data, and this is what I'm able to change. So normally, when you create a fix inspect, you have the fix inspect is going to be working for doing modifications to an existing record and also creating new records. So you program the form once and you call it here in two different modes, and JDE will know the mode that you call it in. So if I call it from the select, it knows it's in revision mode. Okay, if I call it from the select and I pass data to it, it knows it's going to be in the revision mode. I could take that same call, okay, I could copy it, and I'm gonna create another button here, add. So there's a special button for adding. So I would insert, and I'm gonna use add as my button. That's a special button that goes under the file menu. And in the event rules of the add button, I'm gonna use the same call. I'm gonna call the same thing, but I'm not gonna pass it any data because I'm adding. I'm not modifying anything. Same call, same form. Now, because we have some stuff, sort of user friendliness going on here. Okay, there's some coding we're gonna have to do. If this was actually part of the key and we had the short item number in there, it would just be like all taken care of for us. So maybe I should show you with the version. Let me show you that version first. Hang on, so it's easier. I'm gonna comment that out. I'm gonna delete this column. I'm gonna put this one on. Okay, and here. Okay, let me show you this version first. So when I come here and I preview this, when I double click on this, it's 1001. Okay, so it's going to put 1001 here. It's going to not allow me to edit it. It's going to put each year, not allow me to edit it because I'm modifying this record. When I do an add, if you remember what I just did right now, is on the add button here. First I added the add button, then I'm making the exact same form interconnect call, calling the same form, this form, but I'm just not passing it any data. So now when I make that call, it's open. So it's telling me to add a new record. So I don't know short item numbers. I know item numbers. So let's just go and grab a short item number. Where's your regular browser here? So JDE. Okay, so I'm going to open the item master because that's the table that I'm working with.
I think you have to open the browser into
You know where?
the Windows.
I'm not recording this entire screen. You want me to open it here? Okay, so I'm going to go in the item master, which is P4101, or I can go from the menu. It's going to be under material management, inventory data management, inventory record management, maintain item master. That's JDE's application that they built to maintain data for an item. And we're using the table F4101. So I'm just going to go and look for a short item number in here to add a record, 271. Let's say 271. So I'm going to go in here and see, do we already have data for 271? No, we don't. Hang on. Let me remove this. We do. 272 we don't. Okay, so I'm going to add weights and dimensions for this item. So I'm going to do an add. Say which item. I don't know why it does this. Is more options thing, and we gotta figure that one out. It's happening a lot for you. It happens to me sometimes, but not as much as you. It's like all the time. I know. Check that out. So we do 272 and say each, and I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. okay? JDE now just added that record for me,
No.
okay?
Yeah.
Didn't close my screen, added the record for me. That's the default behavior of a fix inspect screen. Okay, I personally don't like this behavior. I like it to close the screen, but sometimes you want to have this if you want to have like add it, a bunch of times. So now if I close out of here, I will see 272 in here. JDE added it. It didn't do an update. It did an insert. JDE, I didn't have to do anything to code that. All I did was use the exact same form that I already built, and in here I call it in two different modes, an edit mode and an add mode. And how does it know the different modes? When you call it from an add and you don't pass it any data, it knows it's an add mode. When you call it from a select and you do pass it data, it knows it's an update mode.
Can we pass some data in add mode?
You can pass some data in add mode, yes. Yes.
We can override it.
If you pass data in add mode, you shouldn't be passing key information because the key doesn't exist.
Right.
But you could have other data structure members that you can pass data if you need to. Yeah. It's just that the ones that the data structures that come from like the primary key,
Yeah.
which are the default data structure members, these ones here,
Yeah.
those you should not you shouldn't be passing any data to.
Like PO, processing options we can pass.
Well, here you can pass some processing option value to it. You can pass other anything else. Yeah. So first thing that I normally do when I create my fix inspect is there's an option on a fix inspect here to end form on add. Okay, so that I always, like 99% of the time, I'm checking. So now when I run this, and I do an add, and this time I'm gonna do 272, and I'll do, let's say, box. See, it closed the screen,
Yes.
right? 272. Now it's added my each and my box.
Wow.
JDE will also, I'm gonna add something that already exists. So it's gonna be a duplicate key, right?
Yeah.
JDE will tell you duplicate key not allowed. Tells you,
Okay.
it knows. Okay, so the user is not going to be able to add that. He'll have to go and modify it, select it to modify it.
Okay, so
Right?
it ensures the data integrity.
Yeah, for primary keys, yeah. Okay, so that's one thing that we're gonna do now. So now in here, to make this better again, okay, I'm gonna remove this from the screen, or I'm gonna hide this from the screen. Let's say, you know what? I'm gonna remove it just to show you two different ways of doing it. Where did it go? Okay, it's gone. Okay, so I've removed it from the screen, and
It was there.
yeah, you normally,
In the tree.
yeah, it would have been in the tree, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm doing LITM for second item number because that's what I want to show to a user instead of the short item number. I'm gonna go and add my code back in the post dialog and initialized to grab whatever's passed to me, and I'm going to put it in the second item number. Okay,
Okay, you fetch
I fetch single. But now the only difference now that I need to make, I have to make one extra change to this because this code is good in select mode, in update mode, not in add mode. In add mode, I'm not given any data. I should not be populating this with anything. So there's a way in the form to distinguish between are you in update mode or are you in add mode. So in the post dialog is initialized, I'm going to if this. You can say if, and there's special variables that are given to me here. These ones here, SV. Okay, and SV, I can tell you the one that there's certain ones that we're going to use a lot. Okay, one of them is going to be form mode. So you can say if form mode is equal to, and these are the modes. There's add mode, browse mode, copy mode, and update mode. So I'm going to say if this is in update mode, then do this. Otherwise, I'm fetching for nothing. It's bound to fail. I'm doing query for nothing. Okay. And the other thing is I can't just set this to read only. Because watch what's going to happen if I do. If I set it to read only and I run this, okay, JDE was managing my other field for me automatically.
Yeah.
So if it was in update mode, it was read only. If it was in add mode, well, it allowed me to input something in there. Now, if I do it myself on this field, when I do add and I made it read only, it's read only always. I can't put anything in there.
Yeah.
So instead of making it a property over here, we're going to do it programmatically. So in here, we're going to go in again in the post dialog, and we're going to say if it's in update mode, grab the data, and there's system function, and it has to do with a control, a form control. We're going to disable the control. Which control? Second item number. So if it's in update mode, go and grab some data and make it disabled. So now when I run this again, and I do an add, it's enabled. And when I do select, it's disabled. So I did it programmatically instead. Okay, so again, JDE, if it's part of the key and it's as a normal native columns, JDE will manage that for you. But the minute you break from that kind of that rule and you're not using the standard primary key anymore for showing the visuals, well, it's going to be up to you to make sure that you make those um, visual changes. Okay, so
So now, how does JDE know?
now JDE, that's it. So how does JDE know which second item number and which short item number belongs to the second item number? Right? Was that your question was going to be? What was your question?
How does JDE know how to either to insert or update?
JDE will know to insert or update based on the mode.
Oh,
If you're in add mode,
right now.
right now, if I click add, I'm
Okay.
calling the form in add mode. If I click select, I'm calling it in update mode. But now when I click add, now I'm putting in a second item number in here. Okay, and the second item number that I put in here, hang on, this is bothering me. Hang on. Doesn't work.
Label. You have to move the label somehow. A bit bigger. Make it bigger. No, you,
I don't know why it does that. Item number. Okay. So, oh no. Okay, so now
yes.
when I do an add, I need to tell JDE here, ultimately what gets added are the business columns,
Yes.
right? So when I insert a record, I need to make sure that all of this data is populated with the proper data that I want. So nobody's filling this in an ad, the short item number. They're going to be giving me the second item number.
Yes.
So I need to programmatically say, when you do that, go and grab the short item number associated with the second item number and plug that value in the BC before you do the save.
Yes.
So to do that, you have several ways that you can work with that. Okay, and I'll show you both ways. And I'll tell you which one's kind of better and why. So the first one I'll do is I'm just gonna fetch. I'm gonna when before the record is updated, I'm gonna go and grab the item number. So to do that, I'm gonna do a fetch single. Okay, F4101, and it's not. I'm gonna use a different index. Okay, so you see whatever star in a fetch single, whatever is starred are your equals.
Okay.
Okay, so if I use the second item number index, that becomes starred. Even if the primary, okay, is you're guaranteed to only have one record.
Yes.
Every other index that you make, there's no guarantee it's only going to be one record,
Okay.
but JDE will fetch the first one it finds.
Ah, okay.
Okay,
Yes.
so I can tell you that the second item number, JDE enforces it to be unique. So it is guaranteed to be unique, but it doesn't have to be. I've used fetch singles before just to grab me my first record. Okay,
Yes.
so I'm gonna put in this case, the second item number in this one, and I'm gonna go and grab the short item number associated with it, and I'm gonna place that in the business column because the business view column, is what ultimately gets saved. And again, I'm only gonna do that if I'm in ad mode. So if I'm in update mode, it already has the right value in the BC. So it's a fetch for nothing. So it's SV form mode is equal to add mode. So if it's equal to add mode, do this. And I'm doing that because ultimately this is what needs to have the data in it. So take a template again. So it's 272, I think we did. Okay. So this is the item I'm going to add. And the unit measure, I'm going to do pair instead. Oh, something did not go right. And I bet you any money here. Hmm.
You try to add it with a different unit of measure, right?
Did I? Let me. I should have, yeah.
I don't know if you did.
Oh, I know why. I put it in the wrong thing. I'm not in update mode. I'm in add mode. This is unnecessary. Why? Because JDE has specific me- uh, events for adding and for updating. This event did not get triggered because it was not an update. It was an add.
Mm-hmm.
So I should have added it here. Add record to DB before. right there. And I don't need to do if it's in add mode because that trigger it only gets triggered if it's in add mode.
Ah, okay.
Okay, and that's why it didn't work. Okay, so now you see it didn't add this to my table, it added that to my table. But I had to go and grab it because of the special thing that we're doing, right? Um, so that is not necessarily my preference in the way of doing things. Normally, what I like doing is I like putting the key always on the grid, on the form. And so I have it there and I have it hidden. And instead of at the very end, because right now what I'm doing is I'm going to grab this data at the end when it's time to add. But what if I need it beforehand? What if I need to do a form exit based on the currently populated item number? Or I need that information because I need to write to another table, or for whatever reason I need it before the end. I don't want it at the end. I want it the minute you enter it here, I want it to be in that field. So instead of doing this on this event, what I'm going to do is do it on an event when this changes. So there's an event rule that you can put on the control, okay? And not when the control is entered, but if when the control is exited and it's changed, which means that every time you change this, do this. What do I want it to do? Go and grab the item number based on the second item number and plug it in the form control, not the BC, the form control. And again, and JDE on screen, but it's not visible, it's invisible. And JDE is going to manage copying the form control to the BC, right? Just when we save it, JDE is going to do that automatically. It does. That's the way it works, JDE, right? So
We could have saved it in a variable.
we could have saved it in a variable and then passed the variable to the BC at the end.
BC.
At the end, yeah. But I like doing it like this
Because the middleware.
because now I have access to that anywhere in any event, in any single event. I have access to that.
And the middleware manages it properly.
And the middle, exactly. So it removes extra steps that I don't necessarily have to do, right? I just plug it in there, it's hidden, and it's available to me everywhere. But yeah, you're right. I could have had a global variable, and I could have used the global variable if I wanted to. I kind of do a bit of both, but this in this particular scenario, this would be my preference. So you can see, I won't make it invisible for now, just so you can see what's going on. Okay, so let's take this item, do an add. So if I, oh man, the minute I tab out, it's gonna go and grab
Mm-hmm.
because I've exited this. I've exited it. That's what exiting means. It means you were in it,
Mm-hmm.
now you're out of it. And it says, did it change from what it was previously?
Mm-hmm.
If it did, execute this event. The exited and changed.
Oh,
And you have control over what do you want to do when this thing changes,
okay.
right? What do you want to do? You can do anything. In my case, in this particular scenario, I'm gonna go and grab the short number associated with it. I'm gonna plug it in here. So
when it
every time
changes.
this changes, SM58-LC, go and grab the short number associated with it.
Wow. Okay.
Okay?
So the front end communicates with the back end.
It's all doing Ajax. It's doing all that taken care of for you.
Wow.
Okay? But you don't have to worry about it. It's all in the middleware that's managing all
Yeah,
that
but
stuff for you.
knowing how complicated and
Yeah,
it is,
yeah. Yeah,
that's why
yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
mesmerized.
Yeah. It's super simple. It makes it super
Yes.
simple, right? That's why I say JDE programming is nothing like what we're doing in .NET and
Yeah, yeah.
Bootstrap and
But
Ajax
understanding
and
those technologies
yeah, yeah,
and
it
going
helps.
back
It helps and
to,
you
to
makes you
JDE,
appreciate
that's,
it.
yes, it's much appreciated thereafter.
Okay, so that happens automatically. So now I'm doing SM57-LZ and it's gonna go grab SM57-LZ. It's all happening through Ajax behind the scenes. Okay, so my preference would be doing this, and then when you save this, okay, it's gonna take this, this, and this. And why those? Because those are the ones that are green. Those are the ones that are associated with the business view.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to take those ones, and upon clicking save button, it's going to take those values that are in there, and it's going to transfer them over to the BC. And then the middleware is going to say, what's in the BC? Save it. And if you're in add mode, it inserts. If you're in update mode, it updates.
But the BC, the middleware is in charge of transferring the FC to the BC.
Yeah, middleware does that
And also
automatically.
the middleware takes the BC to the database.
Yeah, middleware does both steps.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so that is my preference, doing it this way, because in anywhere in my code now, I can I have access to that value. Okay, so one other, I'll do another thing that you're commonly doing right now. It allows me to put anything in here. Just put anything in there. No validation. I can save that, and nothing's gonna happen for me, right? And actually, it didn't update this,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
It didn't do anything.
So it's not saving
It's
it.
not it's okay. It's an error. This should not allow me to put that in there.
Correct.
Okay, so another step that I could do here, right here, when this is changed,
Yeah.
is I can validate. So another common one that's used, another special variable that's used, SV file input output status. Okay, and file input output status has these values.
Mm-hmm.
The most commonly used ones are error and success.
Mm-hmm.
So if I say if the input output status is equal to error, it means nothing was returned. So success means that you were able to grab a piece of data. A record was returned. Error means a record was not returned. So I can say if this fetch, and this variable always applies to the most recent table input output, okay? The most recent fetch that was done. Okay, so if I call it again, this one applies to this fetch, this one applies to this fetch. It's
Okay.
always the last one that was done. And I can have code in here if I want. I could have code doing whatever, I don't know, whatever you're doing here, do some more code. This one is always looking at the last one that got executed. Okay? So if there's an error, I'm going to set an error on the form. So to do that, you can do a system function. Hold you use the control and you can say set control error. Okay, so it takes two things. What's the piece of data that has the error? What's the form that has the data? The form control. It's my second item number. what's the error code? Okay, in the data dictionary, you have the regular data dictionary and you have the error messages.
Yes.
If you look at the error messages, there's a bunch of predefined error messages. So sometimes I look for, like, this one is a common one used in JDE. Okay. Second, item number. I look at item number, invalid item number. I'm going to go into it. I'm going to look at the item glossary, and I'm going to look if this is matches what's my error is. If it is, I can reuse it.
Yes.
If it's not, I create my own error message.
Yes.
Okay, and to create your own, it's the same. It's the same thing as a data dictionary. You just add, you give it an alias. The alias usually, okay, has to start with 50,000 something.
Okay.
That is, I don't know why it's like that, but it's 50,000 something. It will be never overwritten by JDE. Okay,
Okay.
I'll get you the. I don't know the exact specs on that, but I just start using 50,000, and we're up to, I don't know, a certain number right now. Okay, and you set the glossary to E for error.
Yes.
So let's say 50,001. It's probably already used. So say 99, already
The
used.
business, if we
So
write business function in C, it's gonna get an error reading digits, right?
what do you mean?
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah. Okay, so here I'm gonna give it an alias.
Yes.
So it's just a sequential number. I'm gonna get an error. So glossary type is it E for error. 55, 55. This is a short description of it. So let's say item number invalid. Okay, error level. Error messages can be warning, or they can be errors, or they can be information. So in this case, it's one, which is error message, but I can set it as a warning, and I can set it as information. And the middleware, okay, depending on how you code this, the middleware will react differently. Okay, so for now, we're gonna just keep it as one. And the glossary is more of a detailed explanation of the problem. Okay, so I'm going to reuse an existing one. Item number invalid. I usually use this one, 4738. Okay, so the data item 4738 is what I'm going to put in my error code, 4738. Okay, so if there's an error, set a control error on this. Okay, back here. So when I do an add and I just put anything in there, it's going to put me an error. And now, because it's an error, I can't save. Middleware can care of that for me. If it was a warning, the middleware pops up a warning message, but then when you click save the second time, it allows you to save. So it's kind of saying warning, okay, save. Okay, and it takes care, the middleware also, of removing the error message automatically for you. Okay, so you don't have to code the removal of the error message. It knows that you've changed the the item again, remove the error message, run the code again. Okay. The only part that is missing from all of this, okay, is is that I would probably make this 0 if this is not good. Okay, so one kind of thing, it's not necessary, absolutely necessary, but something that I like to kind of do. So when we're changing this, first thing I'm going to do is set the item number to 0, then do my fetch. And if there's one, that's going to be set. If there's none, well, it's going to be 0. Okay, so then that allows me to validate that. I would probably validate this too. And so a lot of times on the control is exited and changed, you're doing some sort of validation. And sometimes the validation has to happen between two fields. So like this cannot be like this. I have to see if it exists. This I can tell you right away that the middleware, because this is user defined field, user defined code, the middleware will validate this for me automatically. It's validating it's in this list automatically because it's a UDC. So if I enter AA, that doesn't exist. Not found in user defined code. So that's what's amazing about UDCs is that you define a list, you associate that list to a field, okay? And then that it becomes a validation. So when you click the visual assist, you see the list, and if you choose anything other than what's in that list, it's automatically validated and says no, you can't enter that value. It's not found. So there's nothing here because it's not a user-defined code. I have to do the validation. Here, because it's user-defined code, the middleware is going to take care of it for me. Now, if there's, in this particular scenario, there is a separate validation that has to happen, and that's, does this, does this, does this exist for this? Does this box, okay, does it exist for this item number? Has it been set up for the item number?
Okay.
So that I can't do. I can do it here, but it's not the best place for it. The best place for it would be when I click the save button, okay? Check that this makes sense with this, okay? And that I don't have time to do right now because it's 6:15, but there's that type of validation that you can also do. Um, and okay, you know what? I'm just gonna leave it at that for now. Is there anything else I can show you quickly? I think that's it. So normally what I'll do on screen, last little thing, is I'll keep my key there so that I see it's working good. Okay, my key's working good on my select. My key's working good on my add. If I do that, oh, it puts something. Oh, that's an item. That's a valid item. That's a 58. That's not a valid item. It clears it. It's working good. It's giving me an error. If I put a valid item back, okay, it's grabbing me the value. So I see, okay, it's working good. So then, once I know it's working good, I'll just hide it. So it's still happening. It's still there.
Yes.
It's still being persisted. It's still available to me in my code. It's just not shown to a user.
So once you're done with the testing, you hide it.
That's it. So now I can go here and I can be guaranteed that when I go SM58-LC and I type E in there, that I have my form control that's there and it's got the right short item number associated with that second item number. And if I enter something invalid, it's just going to tell me it's invalid. So that's more user friendly. They don't care about the short item number. Okay. And I think that's it for now.